Anshia, over to you.
Okay, thank you. And a very good afternoon to those of you who have chosen to spend your Friday afternoon with us as we hear the story of Paul. For those of you who don't know me, and I don't recognise all of the names, my name, as you can see, is Sanchia Alasia. I'm the Acting Director of Equality, Diversity and Inclusion based in the People and Organisational Development Directorate. And as part of our efforts to look into issues of racism, we're really pleased that Paul has been able to join us this afternoon. Paul was the first Black professional football player for the Chelsea Football Club and has a lot of interesting things to share with us about his experiences both on and off the pitch. So welcome, a very warm welcome to you, Paul.
Good afternoon to you, yourself, Sanchez, and everyone that's listening.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to Paul for about 20-30 minutes, and then we'll open it up for questions. So as Neil has said, do put your thoughts and questions in the chat and get them ready. And when it does come to the Q&A session, you can either pop your question in the chat or ask Paul live, which would be nice if you could do that. So Paul, I wanted to start with saying, what sparked your interest in football? At what age did you know that I want to play football?
That would be the age of 5.
Oh, wow. Young
At
age.
that time, watching black and white telly. If anybody knows how far back that is.
Yeah, I remember
punching the money at the back there. That's how far I was watching them TV there. And watching Leeds United at the time. And Leeds United used to play in the white, you know what I mean? Shirts and shorts, socks. And the way their football was playing, I just knew from there, that's where I wanted to be. Now, don't get me wrong, we're coming from a Caribbean background. Yeah, and at this time, my mum and dad had separated when I was 2. Okay. So I'm being brought up, I should say, by 2 ladies, my mum and my sister, who was 1 year younger than me, but it seemed like she was older. But yeah, it was funny because I remember it distinctly to this day when I said, Mommy, I know what I want to be. I want to be a professional footballer. And that was one slap I get in my head. That's what you think. I said, yeah, that was it. You remind me. I think that was when growing up them times, your mother already had a direction or a plan for you. Mm-hmm. Yes, the importance of education, but it was what was the workforce at that time, which was a doctor or a policeman. And neither one of them two that I never wanted to be anyway. So yeah, football was still into me. Every opportunity that I came by, from the Saturday side, the school side, the Sunday side, I would just get on it. Local papers was on me, up and coming, district side. Yeah, it was unbelievable. Trust me, football, being grown, I loved it. It was funny, I was discussing this the other day, and if anybody remembers back in the day, because I remember Mum buying me my boots, and because I used to had these boots, I always borrowed everybody else's boots, and I used to leave it dry, just throw them in the cupboard. And when you left them dry, they'd split quite easily. So my mum got me a pair of boots, and you know the store, if anybody remembers, Woolworths. Yeah, Woolworths was a big, Woolworths was a big store for us. You know that it had your clothes, your school clothes, from your school shoes, from everything. And it's called the Winfield boots. My mum bought them about £15, a lot of money. And I had to make sure every time I finished, I cleaned those boots and shined it, because if I didn't, she wouldn't allow me to play football with it. So yeah.
Excellent. And you mentioned that obviously your sort of dad wasn't around and you were raised by your mum and by your aunt. Did that have an impression on your childhood, Paul?
It had a big impact. All that time I wanted a male figure. Even if you said it was a mentor, I needed a male figure around me. And at that time, I was always with not playing with elder boys. I was the youngest. So the elder boys, I looked up to them kind of thing. But I had to respect them because even though they was getting up to no good and I wanted to get up to no good, they kept me out. And the reason they kept me out is because, now, Paul, you've got a talent. You're great. You're good at football. We don't want you to spoil that. And that was the truth. They kept me away. I couldn't believe, what? You know about that? Nah, nah. And so it's like, nah, what's going on? But an incident that happened, and I must have been 14, 15, that I insisted that I went along with them, and they got to no good and broke this electrical shop. And I got caught. Yeah, the only one time I did, I got caught, had to go court, thinking, yeah, it's my first time offense. The judge will see that, you can see I'm not a bad boy. But he gave me, he told me to go down. I went to Borstal, detention centre, and for 4 months. And that hit home, it really did. As well as that, when you said earlier of how I felt without a male figure there, that was then my mental well-being that was played up, because me and my mum didn't have a really good relationship that I opened up, never shared nothing. I think that was her Caribbean discipline that she carried when she came across from with the Windrush. And I see that because when I went to the Caribbean, I saw that discipline they had. And I mean, the chore, those kids did have to do what they were said, told. And from me, it was a case of, don't get me wrong, I wasn't rude. I was always respectful, because my mum said, anywhere you went, you said good morning, good afternoon, whatever. And it was goodbye, Mrs. Williams, goodbye. And I was like that, you know what I mean? But I think I gave her so much trouble because there were some things that I didn't listen to, some things I didn't accept. And that's where probably that the relationship went, that we didn't open up. I didn't talk to her. Coming from school, there was something that happened. I didn't share with her. And it was a case of keeping it all in. And trust me, it did explode. Oh, it did explode.
Yeah, I think in those days, as you mentioned, Paul, there was this kind of mantra of children to be seen and not heard, and that has changed a lot now, where the rights of the child and the voice of the child is to be seen and is to be heard. But I guess our parents were raised in that way, and they were kind of just passing on what they had experienced at the time. So you mentioned you were in a detention centre for 4 months. So when you came out of that detention centre, what was your mindset? What was your attitude when you left?
Well, you can imagine, because obviously I hurt mum by doing what I did. She was embarrassed. And your mum, this is the Caribbean attitude that they say, they clap that, I've had enough, I wash my hands with you. You know, if you ain't heard that one, boy, I tell you. When you get that one from your mum, that's it. So I had this aunt, and she was like my second mother. And I used to talk to her, blaming. So when I came out, it was a case of, she told me, Paul, now you need to take your football serious. And she was right. I came out at the age of 16, 15, and I joined the club where I knew the manager, the youth manager at the time. He knew my abilities, and I joined Hillingdon Borough, but I was drafted in the first team. I was 16 years old, and most of the players were about 20, 24. I was the youngest.
You're one of the youngest.
Yeah, so I was learning grassroots, don't get me wrong, but it was that good. And I have to love this guy because Colin Barnes, his name was, and he was the youth manager at Hillingdon Borough at the time. And I remember when I came out, he put me straight into the youth team, and he had an uproar from the parents. Hold on, what's going on? Why is he coming in? He told him straight, because he's that good. And if you don't like it, you can off. And I was like, wow, straight. So I didn't even stay in the youth team that long. I was drafted straight into the first team, and I wanted to play for the youth team. And so I thought we could win any cup if I was playing, but that was the learning thing. I mean, the experience in there, that playing on some pitches at the time in Southern League was totally different to what you see professional. But it is grassroots. It is training Tuesday, Thursday, playing the Saturday. And I remember distinctly, I was obviously playing still with my Woolworths boots, and my manager telling me to meet him down in West Drayton in no Ruislip at the Steve Perryman, which was the next Chelsea player, Tottenham player at the time, his sports shop. And he told me to meet him there, and he told me to go and pick myself a decent pair of boots. And I was like, what? Nobody's done that. And can you imagine, because, you know, humble, I'm picking the cheapest pair of boots, obviously, because I ain't spending, you know what I mean? When he saw the boots, he said, what are you doing? I picked a pair of boots. I said, pick a decent pair of boots, go back again. And you can imagine if you footballers out here, Puma King, ooh, what a lovely piece of leather. £75 that boot cost. And that was a lot of money, if you know what I'm saying, 97, late 70s. Yeah. And from that, yeah, I just went, I blossomed. I was playing all over the place. Yeah, it was from there, I went to trials to Southampton, West Brom, Wimbledon, and Chelsea. It was funny because nobody, the whole week I played and trained, nobody said nothing. It was amazing that nobody said nothing. So you're thinking that I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Go back to Chelsea, went to Chelsea, they said the same thing. Nobody said, well, nobody did nothing. So I went back to him in the bar. But Chelsea came back, and in that week, the end of the week, I remember it, Friday, manager wants to see you. I said, winning. So yeah, we like what we see, and we're gonna sign you for the remaining season. And that was 7 months. I had to prove myself to receive a 3-year contract. Now, if emotions was with anybody that felt that they needed to cry or, you know what I mean, the whole of your body turned up, this is where I wanted to be from the age of 5. And now to achieve that, here I am. And don't get me wrong, everybody doubted me. And I didn't make it easy for myself. But to know, yeah, I'd done it, it was a relief, you know what I mean? Football, to be a professional as well. Yeah. It was
Great achievement. Great achievement. So as you mentioned, Paul, you joined, you know, you were signed to Chelsea Football Club over 40 years ago now. What impression do you think you made when you joined the club?
Great, that's a good question. You know, obviously not knowing, you just made me feel old when you said 40 years ago. Jesus, sorry, trust me. Anyway, so you know what it is, because when I came there, you can imagine a 19-year-old and never knew the history of Chelsea. Yes, knowing that he wanted to be a footballer, but they had young academy, what we call them. They weren't academy boys, like, oh God, they're cool. Anyway, similar young boys that were coming through.
Yeah.
And young black boys that were coming through as well.
Okay.
I used to encourage them and like, look, man, when you get your chance, take it. Keep your head down, just listen, you know what I mean? Because that's who I had more confidence with. I was more or less talking with them than more of my teammates, and encouraging them. When I eventually broke in after 4 months, and don't get me wrong, there was a bit of a, how do I put it? With a few of the white players that had been there a long couple of years before me, I'd just come along and there I was into the first team. Didn't go down too well with them. But you know what? I didn't care. This is about me now. This is where I want to be. So a manager at the time, John Neal, rest his soul, gave me my opportunity, told me, Paul, you're sub against Crystal Palace, Sellers Park, playing away. I remember it distinctly because I phoned every family member. You know that when some good news, you know what I mean? You want everybody there to see you. And I phoned everybody. I remember I couldn't stop that phone call. And they were there. I remember, you can imagine, right? I've not often been in the coach. And when I say a coach, we joined the church. I remember my mum every Sunday. Can you imagine? They took us to church, and you know how it was. Like you didn't want to get up for church, but your mother made sure
there was no choice.
There was no choice. You got to church. And Father Morgan, I got his picture, he kind of looked after the black community and he took us out to seaside. You understand me? That we'd never seen before. So you can imagine there was an outing. And that was the first time I went in the coach and it was just all seated. But now I was on this coach. This coach was like a flat. It had kitchen, it had bedroom. It was like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? I was like, already, about coach. But anyway, I sat down and I'm thinking about the game and I'm nervous. The adrenaline's running through my body. I've got the support from my teammates, got changed, rubbed my ring for the lucky ring, sat down in the dugout. I said, I'm ready for this, ready. The game started, referee blew the whistle, and it was a case, first half, 0-0. I thought, well, if it stays like this, I've got to get my chance. Referee, second half, blew 30 minutes, went still 0-0. I said, I remember, I could see it right now. I was sitting in the dugout, I was starting to make some noise. I mean, real noise, just to let the manager know I'm still here, like, because I didn't think he forgot about me. Now, you got to understand this. Back then, when you talk about a substitute, there was only one sub. 11 players, one sub. Today, you've got 6 subs in your lab, 3 players. Not back then. One sub. Can you imagine? So the manager's got to make a decision when to bring that one sub, whether there's an injury, whether he wants to change the game, whether somebody gets sent off. That's the difficult choice he's got to make. And I remember it, man. I was making so much noise, scratching my boots, the studs, just to let him know I'm here. And then I got the call at 36 minutes. Cannon's going to get warmed up. I worked that side and I warmed up. And then I started hearing some racist abuse being chatting at me, and I thought, wow.
And where was that coming from? Where was the racist abuse coming from?
From the fans, like, and all this time I'm thinking, Crystal Palace fans, they're trying to put me off. Wow. And, you know, I thought, you know what, Paul? Ignore. Not today. This is your day. And it kept going on worse and it got worse. And I'm thinking, why has no steward stopped this? What's going on? Now, you mean I'm getting angry, I'm getting vexed, real vexed now. And so I had to, you know, you're hearing word, the W word, the N word. I'm turned around and I'm ready to rumble. But when I turned around, it was like, whoa, it wasn't Crystal Palace fan, it was my own fan.
Wow. And how did that make you feel? That it was Chelsea fans that were throwing out that sort of horrendous abuse?
So, for 6, knocked me for 6. Like you said, I didn't know the history. And I just thought, I'm a player. I didn't look at colour. I'm just a player who's come to play for your club. Why would you not support me? It was like, whoa. And I mean, it was vile. Don't get me wrong. I grew up racism. Back then, it was skinheads. Back then, you'd be going home and a car would slow down. When you saw that car and the red light, brake light, slow down, that meant stop right there and turn around, because they would just come out and attack you. So I've seen this. But here at football, you're not expecting that. This is professional football. Why would you expect that? It played a part. I probably held it I held it down because I didn't complain when I should have complained. And I thought for that reason, if I complained and said anything, then they'd see me as weak and tell me, well, Paul, this is not for you. So therefore I didn't say nothing. You know what I mean? Didn't go home. I had family members telling me, because they were there and heard it.
They saw and heard everything.
Why would I want to play for a racist side like that? And I had to tell them, look, it's not the club, it's some ignorant people. And at the same time, the manager said, they're the same ignorant people that are paying your wages. What are you going to do?
Yeah, difficult.
It was a very difficult one. Do I leave to go where? To a next club and happen again?
Yeah.
It was hard. And don't get me wrong, I think played a major part. My mum gave me the stories when she came over to Windrush. And she came over to be a nurse. She was 16 years old. And that alone was brave. Coming over the country by yourself, left your brothers and sisters. Wow. I mean, when we traveled to see our parents, my mum had to take us. And we was 15. And it was scary just on the plane. You imagine a boat, 2 weeks. Nah. Now she came to be a nurse, and what it was, she couldn't qualify to be a nurse because she was underage, obviously 16. So she had to work at various jobs, live by her aunt. She was working in a hotel, laundrette, and there was a position to be a maid to go in, which would enable more money. She went for the position, and she was told by the manager that the position had gone. Okay. But her friend, who was white, went for the same position.
And it was open.
And come back down, and she got the job. With my mum, man, and I know where I get my stubbornness from. She didn't leave it there. She went back up to see the manager.
Wow.
Hold on, but you told me the job had gone, but you gave it to my friend who's white. To be told, no black woman could be seen in the room. That itself, my mum just took herself up and left the job. Now, you're talking about back then, you ain't even got a job to go to, but you've left this job. That's how she stayed. Wow. And when she gave me stories like that and told me, Paul, sometimes you're going to have to turn your back. Sometimes you're going to have to count to 10. And it was difficult because I was thinking, oh my God, Mum, I don't know if I could do that. You know what I mean? I'm usually outspoken myself. It's something I don't like, I say. But this time, when I should have, I didn't. Only for the reason I'm thinking that, Paul, your dream will be taken away from you. And where today's football now, I see it as you have to say something. Something like this shouldn't be happening, shouldn't be allowed. The FA, Premiership, need to support, start looking after these black players. And the UEFA, all of them, it's got worse because it shouldn't be happening from the stage, like myself, Brendan Baxton, Cyril Regis, Laurie Cunningham, players like that, Viv Vanton. We received all that. Yeah. It's supposed to have got better. Now
How do you feel, Paul? Because this was happening in the 1980s, and we saw recently with the Euros and the penalty shootout and the racist abuse that was leveled at those black players who missed the penalty. That's still happening over 40 years later. How does that resonate?
Right away, and I couldn't understand the media side. Don't get me wrong, when you put up a hand to take a penalty, that's difficult in itself. And those guys, nobody wanted to take it, said, Gov, I'll take the penalty. That was brave in itself. When they missed, I knew what they was going to expect, was going to receive. I knew the next day. I knew what. So I couldn't understand why the media side, they knew, you must have known what they was going to see. How did you allow all that racism to come through? That's itself. So that's why I said Premier and the FA needs to do something. As well as that, the Met Police needs to do something. Because, all right, in the black community, the relationship between the Met Police is not very good. But here what? Do something about this, show that you're taking it serious. We can take it serious and understand that you're taking it more serious. And so I was waiting, to be honest, and yep, they made a few arrests, but to me that wasn't good enough because I think I'm hearing it so many times. They made a few, or it's inquired, and then you don't hear nothing more.
Yeah.
What happened? A lot more needs to be done, but I was discussing this. I said, hear what? And I can only talk about we're at Chelsea. Yes, on the top of our lips, everybody, when a situation comes about with racism, everybody mentions Chelsea. Yes, that happened. Yes, everybody knows my story, but it's what we're doing now to eradicate racism and what the fans are now involved, because the fans need to get involved. Now, what I see should be happening, the FA are giving little pats on the hand fines, and whether it's a player or whether the fans being banned for a year and coming back, no, that's not serious enough. How I feel, because we need to discuss solutions. That's what we need to discuss with the FA. My bearing, I said, look, if racism is happening at a ground badly, more than once, if it's twice, then hear what? You deduct 3 points. Yeah? That 3 points. That's how serious. 3 points is a lot of, it's so important. When that comes at the end of the season, it could be a thing where you might be at the top or the second, and that 3 points that you were deducted could have made you win the league.
Yeah,
those 3 points for you to be down at the bottom could have saved you from being relegated. That's how serious now you're taking it. Yeah. Then that will make the fans, you know what, we don't want that. No way.
Right.
We need to do something. We need to get those ignorant people out of our club. We don't want that. That's where you're going to step up. That's how I feel. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it is about consequences. It's about the social media companies, about the Football Association actually taking that really seriously. And we've seen with the cricket club in Yorkshire kind of just brushing these issues under the carpet and kind of saying, oh, it's just banter. You know, you're all taking it too seriously. But actually, it does need to be taken seriously. And there needs to be hard and fast consequences.
So a person can't, this is the situation, comes to a game and he's racially abusing players on the pitch. And then he'll go home and he'd be quick to say, oh, I'm not racist. Oh, it's just banter. No, brother, my friend. That's not banter, that's racism. You can't come there and say you're not racist and then go home thinking, no, I didn't. No, simple as. So,
needs to be called out for what it is.
Has to. Definitely.
Absolutely. So you've gone through a few challenges in your life. You've faced homelessness, you've overcome drug addiction, had a knee injury. Do you want to tell us about how you've overcome some of those challenges, Paul?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to quickly go in there because I know you're 30 minutes up and I know you people want to ask questions. It was my mental well-being, depression was tested when the time I had to retire at the age of 25.
Very early.
I dislocated my knee, dislocated. And I was in denial. I really was. And that was because of the attitude when your mum says, don't tell anybody. So when people were coming to me, how you feeling, Paul? Yeah, man, I'm all right, you know. I wasn't. But I never told you that. I wasn't all right. So I wouldn't let you know. That pride was so strong. And then I got involved in drugs. That took control because it made me forget the problems around me at the time, but it didn't leave. They soon came back. That way I was like a hermit. I wouldn't go outside, my hygiene, that was it. Mental depression, didn't want to see nobody. Then next thing I know, found out, had cancer. I was like, well, where did that come from? I was a fit lad with cancer. I've had it 3 times. First time, I nearly died. I didn't take it serious. With cancer, you had the chemotherapy. Chemotherapy kills your good immune system. And I didn't take it seriously. That the first time I went, and the doctor, my specialist, a woman, she said, if you catch a cold, Paul, you need to come into the hospital right away. And I thought, oh, okay. You know how people say, when you catch a cold, honey and lemon, you know you want to get your honey and lemon, paracetamol, pop, and you drink that. I ain't gonna lie, for 2 weeks, this cold had not gone. I woke up one day and I was paralyzed. I mean, literally paralyzed. Could only move my head, couldn't move my toes, my arm, my feet, no. Had to be rushed to the hospital. I'm then in and out of coma. I just reached the hospital in the nick of time. Wow. Now, the only person that cursed me was my mum. Only woman that ever told me off is my mum. But this specialist is a woman and she let me have it. And you know what? Let me tell you the reason why I allowed her. She supported Chelsea. So I had to take that, you know what I mean? I had to take it. But after that, it was, homeless came before that when I was in Slough and I moved to London. I had an argument with my mum's partner. He threw me out. That in alone was an experience. A lot of things, you know what, that I could really discuss, which I do now when I go into my workshops. But I can't just say, even this year, I had a health scare and I nearly died. And it's the truth, doctor said it. They told my sister who was on the phone every day, because obviously, because of COVID, we couldn't have no visitors. And I was in sedation, or like coma. I was in a coma for 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And I got to believe that I was in a dream. And those dreams I was in were real. I don't know if you understand when I'm in a dream that feels real. I was in those dreams, nowhere for 6 weeks. I believe that's what kept me alive.
Okay.
Pardon me, because they said I had 3 major operations, and it was supposed to be a bowel obstruction, the first one. Done that, took me back up. Then I had this high pitch fever, come out of nowhere. Took me down again, found I had 2 liters of blood in my system, with a leak, had to draw that out, sew me up. Then I had a cyst, large cyst, black in my stomach. They didn't want to operate then. A third operation would have been too much for me, my body.
Yeah.
Well, what happened? And this, I'm sedated, you know, all the time. I coughed. And when I coughed, the stitching opened up.
Oh.
When the stitching opened up, I mean, long, right from my chest to my stomach, right there. It opened up. They were able to operate and do again, take my cyst out. They couldn't sew me up. So, because I was too swell up, they had to bandage me, my stomach. All this time now, I started vomiting. Sorry if I'm talking about in my own stomach. Can you imagine? It was open and I vomited. Watch out. Every doctor, when I eventually woke up, came to my bed and said, Paul, we honestly didn't think you were going to come through. I went, what? Yeah, serious. I mean, I'll tell you this now. When I came through, I was given the morphine, but it actually wasn't working. I was in so much pain. Now, I've been knocked down so many times, my resilience, I've been up, down, but this one, I couldn't take the pain no more. And I remember asking the nurse, can I see the doctor? And she asked me, can I ask why? No. And I asked the doctor, I said, doctor, please, can you put me to sleep? Anyway, sleep, what do you mean sleep? No, not sleep, Paul. I mean, I can't take this pain no more. And the doctor, Paul, we can't do that. And I remember, I so laugh about it, but it's serious. I remember telling him, but doc, man, I won't tell nobody. Like, if I'm gone, how am I able to tell him? He said, Paul, we can't do that. I said, no, you need to talk to somebody. I said, it's all right. For me to think like that, I've never think like that to take in my life, never. But that show you how I felt, and I was prepared to do that. That's where I realized when people talk about depression, people talk about mental health, this, I realize now how easily it is about thinking of taking your life. I had to look at it like that because I know a couple of friends that done that. Young people in the football game being released have taken their life.
Yeah.
It's what's going through their mind. I was that close to. So yeah, it's where I am now.
Yeah. It's good to talk, and all of us have mental health. It's just it can be in a good place and it can be in a bad place, and we have to be able to be open about that and to be able to support.
Exactly, Jess. Talk about it, man. I think I'm just saying it for the Black community that, you know, where we've been told that your mum said, don't tell anybody your business.
Yeah.
Keep between these 4 walls. And that's what you've been told from grown. So because if you tell somebody your business and it got back to her, oh, you're in trouble. So that's what it was. You're just quiet. But that was wrong. Because when people talked to me, I was like, I wanted to open up. And I kept this in. So when I went to the rehab and talked to a counselor, oh my gosh. The first time I thought, no, I'm not prepared to open up. He said, this is the program. I said, look, you ain't understanding where I'm coming from. And he was a white guy, no disrespect. And I'm not racist, but you don't know my background.
Yeah.
So I needed to talk to a Black man. Yeah. So they got a Black guy for the following week and he come through it and he upset me because he was talking the same thing. Why are you here? Well, what do you think I'm at? It's a drug rehab.
Yeah.
But he hit some notes. He brought up my mother. He brought up my kids. I was like, how dare you? But he was on the point. He was on spot on. And this is what opened me up. Oh my God. Every time I look forward to talking to. So this is me now telling any person about if they've got something to talk, talk to a counselor. They're there to help you. Most definitely. Because it's difficult. You know how difficult it is to talk to a family member or it's not that easy
Yeah.
to relate, you know, so yeah.
Absolutely. Well, there's much more that we could talk about.
I know, we ain't got time.
And I want to make sure that we allow time for questions. So I'm just looking at the chat and the comments. So Ian Bridgewater talked to, I think you mentioned Woolworth. So he mentioned BHS, which is now closed. I remember CNA, which is now closed.
All of those
stores are gone now.
Ways. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, Ian mentioned his mum was from Nevis. She was strict, but maybe the man I am today. Sometimes we get knocked down so that we can get back up, change direction and fix our lives. Thank you. And he's talking about the racism as well. So Ian's saying, so when you experienced the racism, would you say you were surprised to hear about the racism? Just bothered, intimidation, performing well. So so how did you feel about the racism? Were you surprised in the early days in the 1980s when you first started playing to hear that racism coming through? I think that's what
it did shock me, because as far as I'm concerned, the word professionalism.
Yeah.
So how were you expected to hear that when this is now professional football? I didn't expect to hear that. Yes, on the street when growing up, I saw that related to it. But here now in a football club that was big I didn't expect it. It shocked me. And as I said before, I was young and didn't want to make no noise. Don't get me wrong, I could have probably done the same thing that Eric Cantona did and went into the crowd with boots flying high. But me, as a young black boy, to go and do that, you know, they would have spotted me and said, you know what, Paul, you're out. Oh, nothing else. Don't get me wrong, not understanding what I was taking, you know, to accept that, but no, what you did, retaliating, that's not the thing we want to see at the club. That's what would happen. And that's the reason why, don't get me wrong. So that's the reason why I'm a campaign against racism right now, as well as that. And I think because of the scare that I had this year, oh man, I'm using every platform I can.
Absolutely.
Not just for that, it's for the youth as well as my foundation. And being this week launched was, I'm ambassador to Crime Stoppers and the Fearless organization. And what we're talking about with regards to the knife crime, regards to crime with these youth, that not every youth is a criminal.
Yeah.
And some of them don't like what's happening. So here, this organization, Fearless, gives you the opportunity that you can report crime. Yeah, report something happening in your community because you now want your community safe again. You can report it without any identity. It be anonymous.
Yeah.
You won't have, there's no number taken, there's no name taken, even an email, that's correct. Your information will be passed to the police to then investigate it. Okay. So that is what I think is so needed, because you know what I mean, the repercussion of somebody, you know what I mean, young lad going to the station and saying, look, I know such and such. And it's quite easily that the person or the people will hear who it was and then harm them or their family. And that was being the fear of. Now you can now do it anonymously. And I'm so big for this to say that every youth need to understand this, and they do. They realize it. And yeah, I was at the call center and I couldn't believe 24/7 the calls that were coming through. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Absolutely. And we've got Sue Parrish. You've got your hand up. Do you want to ask your question?
Hi, yes, please. Firstly, thank you so much for sharing your story, Paul. It's fascinating, really raw, and yeah, really appreciate you sharing it. I currently work with players in football. I have done for a number of years, and unfortunately your story is not an isolated story. Still today, unfortunately. And I was just wondering if you had the chance to tell your 15, 16-year-old self, or provide yourself with one piece of advice that you think might have lessened the impact of what you went through, what would that be? Or do you think that maybe there wouldn't have been anything that you personally could have advised yourself to prevent what you went through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you see with me, now, if I could go back, take my education much more seriously. I left school, I didn't take no exams. Yeah, 15, 14. I took how many days off were absconded or bunk off school? I didn't realize I nearly took a whole half term. And when they asked for mum to come in, she go, what do they want to see me for? Oh, I think I've been very good, mum. When they told me it don't make sense in taking an exam, he's not been here. That in itself was embarrassing for my mum. And I realized how important our education was. I would have learned a lot more. To now, I still say I'm learning, but I picked up so much. I actually, after football, which took a little while after my fourth, I took the position as a TA, a teacher's assistant. Me going back into school, I saw individual kids that, oh my God, that's me. Oh, no. I need to talk to that boy. I need to change him. It was such a blessing. The greatest thing, besides football, and I love football, but to go back into school and help. And they need more male Black teachers. They do. I'm not to say I'm not being racist, but they just need it. It's really difficult for these kids. You know what I mean? So, I was in there for 5 years. The only reason why I left because my cancer. And worst thing, when you get colds, who brings the colds? The kids. And the kids gave me cold every time, knocked me out for the week that I decided to leave school. The head didn't want me to go. I didn't want to go, but I had to. And that was probably the reason why I started my foundation, and probably the reason why I wrote my autobiography. Yeah.
It's really interesting as well, Paul, the fact that you, during your reflections and also during that answer, is that there's evidently a real concern of yours about the impact that you've had on your mother, in the sense of, like, a lot of your decisions are based around what your mum would have thought or what she would have done. Is that,
Sue, if you ever know, right, like you mentioned that, I'm 59 now, 60 next year, and I'm still frightened of my mum and talking to her, even though I swear you not. And it had a lot to do with my relationship with her. It was a case, my mum, my sister and I would tell you the same thing. We couldn't discuss anything. There was a problem at school. You come to my mum, something happened at school. Mum right away said, well, it must have been your fault. That's why. She didn't even listen to us. So therefore, we just stopped saying anything because she turned around, it was our fault. So when you got that, what do? You don't got to bring up anything with her. You just had to do what you had to do. And that was make sure you clean up, tidy it up before she come home. You know what I mean? And going in my room with my head like, oh man. You know what I mean? And boiling up. And that's what I said, everything boiled up. I exploded. When I went in the argument, it wasn't even your fault. But I was so mad, I was just hitting everything. You know what I mean? It was
taking it out on other people, which is what your mother, I suppose, was also doing. Right. Yeah.
But now,
interesting,
we talked to her. Yeah, we talked now, and she understood. You know what I mean? She wasn't that motherly love at that time because of the discipline coming from the Caribbean. They weren't been told that. They've been told, do this, do that, do your work. I saw my granddad and my mum before they died, Grandma. Trust me, that granddaddy, boy, he's look alone. Don't mess with me.
Would be enough.
You know what I mean? And that's what we had to tell my kids now. And I've got kids, I won't even go in that history now. My kids, I don't have to say it. They look at me, I just mention the names. Paris. They know they did something wrong. And that's what it was. You ain't putting no hand on me, like we're back in the day how they did, boy. Oh God. But that's how it is with my kids. And I love them to death. And I think that's even appreciated that they can ring you now. They're comfortable to ring. Are you all right, Dad? How you doing? You know what I mean? And I'm like that now. I can ring them. I don't ring them every day because you know how the kids are. Just to find out, are you all right? Is there anything you need? Get on with it. So it does mean a lot to that. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks, Sue. We've got a question from Maybelline in the chat. She's asking, do you think much has changed since the days when you played football, and how do you feel with the racism going on now and not much has been done about it?
Well, it was a different time for me. And when I came back to the club 2004 after leaving in 86, went on the pitch, I didn't know what to expect, and I got a standing ovation. Then when I went back to my seat, I saw 6, 7 black players play for Chelsea, and I thought, that's a mistake. Something's wrong here. How have they got these black players playing for Chelsea? I swear, Lord, until one person then said to me, Paul, that's because of you, mate. You set this off. I felt so good. I felt proud. But don't get me wrong, it was like still hearing it in the sidelines, still hearing it from fans, and even players. Now, this is why we said before, the FA, Premiership, UEFA, they've got to do a lot more. Just pat in the hand when you hear about it. All right, we've got organisations like Kick It Out and Show Racing Red Cards. They're not strong enough. And no disrespect to what they do. They go around into the schools, showing of Black history and so forth. Black history, come on, man. We've got to be reality, showing about what's happening now, not about Black history of the past, right now. And this is why, with my foundation, we're hitting the schools. We're talking about racism and the effects it is right now. And sometimes it comes from the parents. But hear what now? We want to show you kids who better, myself, and not only myself, other ex-players and present players. It's the difference with the footballers of today. And no disrespect, they're like pop stars. You can't even approach them. Yeah. And I know these young kids in school would love to hear from a present player if he come in there to spoke for half an hour to tell them the effects of racism, how important school is, how important bullying is. That child would change. I'm telling you. Mm-hmm. So it's where I am at this moment, really now. Sorry. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you to everyone for your questions, your interactions, and thanks to you, Paul, for sharing your experiences of the things that you have gone through in terms of your professional career journey, the challenges that you faced. And it's really good that you set up this foundation that promotes confidence, diversity, and resilience, and that you've got your award-winning autobiography, which can be bought, Black and Blue. So
Black and Blue, thank you.
Go and buy that as well. And thanks for your suggestions on what football associations can do to tackle racism, taking that seriously. And it's really great to see the partnership that you've made with Crime Stoppers Youth Service, their first football ambassador, and working with the youth who are the future generation. So thank you. And thank you to everybody who has joined us this afternoon. And there's lots of comments in the chat about how people have found the session inspiring, that you keep doing what you do, Paul, and that people have learned a lot from the session this afternoon. So
thank you very much for having me. I mean, I always enjoy this because obviously now, because of this pandemic, the reason I usually go in, I like to go in person and talk to you can see, but don't get me wrong, these Zoom links come in handy as well as such. It's amazing, and just sharing this something yesterday. Yesterday was the first time I went to number 10 down the street and met Boris. Yes.
Oh, wow.
I supported Damiola Taylor Trust.
Yes.
Taylor there. So I'm with that as well.
I saw the pictures on Instagram.
Hope and Collection. And to meet Boris, come on, man. Like, you made me old already. To think back, I would ever be at number 10. Come on. So he's got to take note about the youth. And you just said it. The youth are our next generation. We need to do something about that. So I'm starting the right track. And I know we can do a lot more, most definitely.
Absolutely.
Thank you again.
And thank you all. Neil, do you have any final words?
No, not from me, Paul. Absolutely brilliant. This session was recorded. We're going to share it with everyone who attended. So if you want to watch it again, you can share it widely with anyone you think might benefit from this. We really want our events to have an impact beyond just the event themselves, so they can hear about all the incredible work Paul's doing. So thanks everyone.
I appreciate that.
Thank you to those of you who came.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, have a good weekend.
Much.
Definitely. Bye-bye.
Enjoy your weekend all.
You too.
Bye.